Hey all, and welcome to this week's episode of the Shut Up Get Up podcast. I'm your host, Mike Muldoon, and as always, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an interesting week, to say the least. I actually shared this on Facebook the other day. Maybe you saw it. I'm just repeating myself here, but it was kind of funny. I woke up the other day and the internet was down in my house. So I couldn't get Alexa to tell me what time it was, or nor could I actually find out what the weather was like outside. And I tried to get on my phone, but for some reason, the internet in my house, I don't know why this works, but sometimes it can interfere with my data. So my phone wasn't working, right? So I was able to get the time. That was a good thing, but I couldn't check the weather out there. And then I also had to make this phone call. I had to call and change a doctor's appointment. Couldn't dial out. So the phone wouldn't dial out, right? And I couldn't even access my phone, which is even funnier because this phone call I had to make, I actually had to try to get the phone number, but I couldn't do it because I couldn't access the data on my phone. And then finally, I was like, whatever. And then I ended up leaving my house a little bit later on, and I realized I left something back inside of it. And then when I tried to get back in my house, I couldn't because the keypad, which is connected to the internet, wasn't working. It was so insane. I feel like somebody should have took away my 80s card. I was a kid of the 80s. We didn't rely on any of this stuff. We can get anything done. In the 80s, we didn't have the internet and we had normal clocks and carried our keys in our socks. And if I needed a phone number, I probably had it memorized and all those fun things. Anyway, this kind of leads into what I want to talk about today, right? Because through all of that, I just kind of took it with a grain of sand. And even though we're on, with some I'm seeing out there right now, we're on the cusp of a Mercury in retrograde, which for those of you who don't know, or maybe new to my podcast, my wife is actually an astrologer. And, when you hear this Mercury's in retrograde, a lot of people get this doom and gloom. And that's not always the case. But again, that's for another chat. But anyway, I didn't take that all as like a victim mentality, like the world was against me. And this is what I want to talk about today. There's so many people going through life thinking and behaving, perceiving themselves as a victim in their own story, a victim to their circumstance, blaming external factors for their problems and their difficulties, rather than what they should really be focusing on is taking that personal responsibility for their actions and their outcomes. About people with victim mentality, you can usually spot the signs. You probably know people like this. Again, they often feel helpless, powerless. They feel trapped in their circumstances. They'll tell you how they're trapped in their circumstances. They focus on what they cannot do rather than what they can do. They walk along at the mercy of others or their environment and believe that they have little control over their lives. They might even get angry or berate others because they believe they're just being unfairly treated by them, the world, or even the universe. Now, the truth is there are some external factors, such as social and economic inequalities that can contribute to a person's struggles and challenges. I mean, after all, we all build these sort of internal programs, right? Like we've talked about this in earlier podcasts, we all develop these internal programs to sort of guide us. But, people who, get to this point where they have this victim mentality, they don't realize that it's all limiting their lives. It's preventing these people, right? Because they just believe they're powerless. It's just preventing them from taking the steps to improve their situation. They walked blindly through the world. We've talked about this on previous podcasts. Most people aren't even paying attention. They're just operating on this subconscious programming, right? So they're just walking blindly through the world. They're never adjusting their sight and focusing on or, taking personal responsibility to address the challenges in their lives, to fix their situation, to basically take control of their lives. Now, if you're one of these people and you got this far, thank you. And let's keep going. It might be painful, but let's keep going. And this might not be easy. I mean, there are some individuals, and it might even be yourself, that have experienced genuine trauma or some sort of victimization in their lives. And that might require some support or resistance to really overcome these challenges. I've talked about in the past, again, on my podcast where, you got coaches who can just help you sort of get where you are in your life, where you're feeling really good about yourself. You want to move forward. But people with victim mentalities, this might require something a little bit more. This might require, something along the lines like therapy. But that doesn't mean that it's not important to avoid this mentality and focus on taking the steps towards healing and recovery. And again, as painful as it's going to be, it is worth moving forward because in the end, you will be better for this. It's not just because it was, doesn't mean it has to be. I mean, there are countless stories of people who had like terrible upbringings, terrible childhoods, right? I've talked, I have an entertainment background. So a lot of times I'll refer to, entertainment people or, people in my current field, but like George Takei, I remember him talking about like as a child, his whole family was forced from their home and sent to an internment camp for years for just being Japanese American. It was during the war. Oprah Winfrey has talked quite openly about being sexually abused at a young age. I just read recently that Tyler Perry was beaten by his dad. And, Tony Robbins talks about all the time growing up in an abusive and alcoholic mother. But it's pretty safe to say that none of them are walking around right now with a victim mentality. If anything, they've taken what they've gone through and they've flipped it on its head. And, they're out there inspiring millions of people to live these great lives. So I ask you, if you're one of these people, you got to check yourself. Because if you're out there just blaming people for your situation and you're feeling helpless, then it's time to stop. And it's not impossible to make that change. It's just going to take some effort. It's going to take some self-reflection. It's going to take some things. There are some steps that you can take to make change and get out of this rut because it is your life. And as I often talk about on my podcast, life is about living. So a couple of things to look at. And just, for those people who are listening going, well, none of this applies to me. Well, then you know what? You're going to take this and you're going to bring it to somebody who does. You're going to bring it to somebody who does. We're going to make this world a better place, people. We got to make this world a better place. We need happier people out there. First thing about everything to make any change in your life, anything, you have got to recognize the patterns. Or, sometimes it's referred to as the changes, not the changes, the chains. That's what it was. It's the chains of behavior that is keeping you stuck. Because everything we do starts with a pattern. A pattern is you get angry, you throw something. You get some news that might be good, but you immediately start going down the rabbit hole about why it can't be good. The chance of a lifetime comes and immediately you're like, well, it can't happen to me. You've got to recognize these patterns of behavior. And that's where you've got to start making the change. If you're snapping and you're getting angry all the time, then you got to figure out how are we going to stop that? How are we going to change it? How am I not going to throw that thing? We've got to start recognizing our patterns. There was a study that revealed that 90% of the population can simply be classified into 4 basic personality types: optimistic, pessimistic, trusting, and envious. Well, let's be honest. If you got to choose 2 of them, we should probably be going with optimistic and trusting, right? The thing is, you got to take responsibility. While it's important to acknowledge the ways in which you may have been mistreated or wronged, or they've been mistreated or wronged, it's also essential to take that responsibility for your own thoughts and actions. Look at it. What could I have done to change my situation instead of focusing on what others could have done to make your situation better for you? It's been said a million times. You cannot control what happens to you, but you can control how you react to it. Then it's got to start with reframing. Reframing is simply taking something and putting something else in place of it, all right? You're basically reframing the picture, right? No more thinking of yourself as a victim. You got to see yourself as a survivor. Focus on strengths. Look for ways to use them to overcome challenges. Right? Change the picture. That's what it is about reframing. We take this old picture, we get rid of it, and we replace it with a new one. You can't get this job because you don't have this. Has to be changed with, I can get this job because I have this. I can never do that because I don't have this. Has to become, I can do this because I believe in this. So you've got to reframe the picture. It always comes back to this one. You want to start somewhere. If you need the first place to go to in anything to change your life, especially getting out of a victim mentality, you got to go one place. It's gratitude. Everybody can be grateful for something. Everybody can be grateful. There has got to be something. If you got up this morning, you had a meal right now, you should be grateful. You slept in a bed last night, be grateful. You got a roof over your head right now, be grateful. You got clean drinking water, be grateful. You know, I talked about this a few episodes back. There are people who literally have to walk hours a day, every day to get water. You can be grateful for that. If you went to a tap this morning, you got some water. So this is what I'm talking about. Find the little things in your life that you can appreciate no matter how small, because when you focus on being grateful, it can shift your mindset away from I'm a victim to taking a more positive outlook on things. And you might find when you just sit there for a second, just think about all the little things you can be grateful for, just all the little things, you know, they start adding up. Warm blanket, pillow, had a bed last night, got some water, had some food today. Takes your mind off the big things that you're focused on that you don't have. And it helps you start building blocks to eventually making that positive mental change, getting you out of this victim mentality of, oh, I'm powerless, nothing over change, I have no control over it, to I have control over everything. But if you need help, get it. You know, if you need help, get it. I talked about it a little while ago. Get support, get a therapist, get a counselor, find a trusted friend or a family member. Now, this one, I'd be a little, this one, you got to be a little bit careful about who you're going to. And I would prefer you probably found somebody who was a little bit impartial in knowing you, or I don't even know if that's the right word. Because sometimes our family members and our trusted friends think they know what's right for us. So they're going to push us that way. And that necessarily isn't the way that's going to move you forward or get you past what you want to do. I would say if you can, therapy, a counselor, but if you have to go to somebody you trust or somebody that you know that other people trust, then do that. Because if you talk through your experiences and your feelings with somebody, they can offer you guidance and some sort of support that can help you break free of this mentality. Because again, it's just a mentality. It's not a reality. So here's the thing. If you don't live this way, good for you. And if you don't live this way, then it's on you to help people who do live this way to make some change in their lives. Because like I said, we need more happier people out there. We need happier people out there. And for those who are irate right now, or a little mad at me, or just right now going through the 100 things you had, you don't understand because of this, blah, 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 you don't know, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. Because ultimately, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, and some people have had some tragedies. But there is a past, but it doesn't have to be the future. And as I stated earlier, there have been countless people, thousands of you, millions of people who've had stories of things that have happened to them, terrible things that have happened to them, and have actually found the strength to move forward. But it's going to take time. It's going to take effort. It's going to take patience. It's going to take perseverance. But it's possible to break free from this pattern of thinking and to live a life more fulfilled. And to be quite honest with you, a lot of the people that I do come in contact with this have not suffered any great tragedy. They've just sort of suffered one little setback in their lives, and they just suddenly started building on it, till all of a sudden this victim life they're living, it seems insurmountable. But it all went back to something small. So not everybody living a victim mentality has had some great tragedy in their lives. They just had a setback somewhere, a relationship, didn't get something, whatever it is. I mean, there's probably thousands of different things, and simply built that upon them before they knew it. Well, I'm just living this life. There's nothing I can do about it. I can't get out of it. I can't do this. But with some help and a willingness, because everything comes down to willingness to change, they can change. All right, all. That's all I got for you today. Hope it helps. As always, thank you so much for just being here. It's really cool when I log in and I see all the downloads and see people looking at it and getting some emails and some comments from people, and I love it, man. I really enjoy what I'm doing here. When I started off, I said if I can help one person, that would be a success. And I've gotten a couple emails and messages from people who've said, you know what, I heard this thing that you said, and I realized, yeah, you're right. And I started making some changes, and it actually changed their lives. I mean, I'm not saying they've gone from one place to this incredible place, but they're on their way there. And for that, I'll always be happy. All right. Always, you check me out on Mike Muldoon, LC, Instagram. People, I'm trying to keep up with it. I'm trying to, be a content guy, but this is my content, and you can check it out on Facebook at Mike Muldoon LC. Obviously, I know you got me on my podcast here. If nobody has Apple that you're talking to, I can't listen. I don't have an Apple phone. Well, I'm available on Spotify and everything else. You can always go to my website, Mike Muldoon LC, for life coach, Mike Muldoon. That's MikeMuldoon LC.com. You can always go there, get familiar about who I am. Reach out, set up a session. Let's talk, maybe, or just send me an email. You have a question, a comment, a concern, send me an email. I love hearing from you. I'm more than happy. I got into this because I want to help. I want to help people. I want to just try to leave the world in a better place. After all, I've got children, so I'd like to leave this world in a better place. The only way to get there is with happier people. All right, all. Like I always say, I wish you the best. You have a great weekend, and I've got nothing but love for you all. Get up.